Hi, welcome to your channel, Virgo. Wait, before you open that door, before you respond to that text, before you make any assumptions about what's happening, you need to hear this because there's someone right now, someone who's been on your mind, or maybe someone you haven't thought about in a while. And there's this energy around them that feels different. Like they're planning something, like they're building up to something, like they're getting ready to show up in a way that might catch you off guard. And I need you to understand why. Not so you can prepare some perfect response, not so you can control what happens, but so you can see this clearly for what it actually is. Stay with me, because what I'm about to describe, it's going to make sense of a lot of things you've been feeling lately. Have you noticed how someone's energy has been hovering? Like they're there, but not there. Like they're watching from a distance. Like they're working up the courage to do something they haven't been able to do yet. Let me know in the comments if you're already sensing who this is about. Because here's what's happening. This person, they've been going through something. Not something you caused, not something you're responsible for, but something that's been making them reconsider, reevaluate, look back at choices they made, at doors they closed, at connections they walked away from. And your name, your face, your energy, it keeps coming up for them, not in a casual way, not in a, oh, I wonder how they're doing kind of way, but in a way that won't let them rest, in a way that's making them question whether they made a mistake, whether they gave up on something too soon, whether they let go of something they shouldn't have. And now there's this probability, this pattern I keep seeing, where someone who's been distant, who's been silent, who's been occupying their own world, they start to feel this pull, this need to see you, to talk to you, to show up in person, because a text doesn't feel like enough. A call doesn't feel like enough. They want to be in front of you. They want to look you in the eye. They want to say something, or maybe just see if what they're feeling is still there when they're actually in your presence. Does this resonate with what you've been sensing? Because I need you to understand something before this happens. This isn't about you needing them. This isn't about you waiting for them. This isn't about their arrival being the thing that completes your story. This is about them finally catching up to what you already knew. Let me explain. There's been this shift in you over the past few weeks, maybe months, a shift in how you see yourself, how you value yourself, how you move through the world. You've been releasing things, old patterns, old ways of shrinking, old habits of making yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. And that shift, that energy, it's being felt not just by you, but by people who knew you before, people who had access to you before, people who maybe didn't fully appreciate what they had when they had it. And this person, the one whose energy keeps showing up around you, they're feeling it too. They're noticing that you're different, that you're not waiting anymore, that you're not holding space for people who aren't showing up. And that's creating something in them, a kind of urgency, a kind of, wait, I need to do something before it's too late. Have you felt this sense that someone is realizing something about you? Let me know in the comments, because here's what I keep sensing. They're planning to show up. Not in some grand romantic gesture kind of way, not necessarily in some dramatic movie scene moment, but in a real way, a face to face, I need to talk to you, I need to see you, I can't keep avoiding this kind of way. And here's why. They've been carrying something they didn't say when they should have, something they didn't acknowledge when it mattered, something they've been trying to ignore, trying to move past, trying to convince themselves doesn't matter. But it does. It matters to them. And the longer they sit with it, the more they realize they can't just let this fade into the background. They can't just pretend like what you shared, what you were to each other, what existed between you was nothing, because it wasn't nothing. And they know that now. But here's the part you need to hear. This realization they're having, this clarity that's coming through for them, it's not happening because you've been chasing them. It's not happening because you've been begging for their attention. It's not happening because you've been waiting around hoping they'd come back. It's happening because you stopped. You stopped making yourself available to people who weren't choosing you. You stopped explaining yourself to people who weren't listening. You stopped holding doors open for people who weren't walking through them. And that created space. Space for them to actually feel what they lost. Space for them to recognize what they walked away from. Space for them to sit with the reality that you're no longer an option they can just come back to whenever they're ready. Does this land for you? Comment below if you're starting to see this pattern, because there's something else I need to tell you. When they show up, and there's a real probability they will, you need to be clear about why you're letting them in. Not clear for them, clear for you. Because here's the thing. Just because someone realizes they made a mistake doesn't mean they're ready to do things differently. Just because someone misses you doesn't mean they're capable of showing up for you the way you need. Just because someone wants another chance doesn't mean they've actually changed. And you've changed. You're not the same person who was available to them before. You're not operating from the same level of need, the same level of hope, the same level of maybe this time will be different. You're operating from clarity now, from boundaries, from self-respect, from a place that knows your value doesn't depend on whether or not they see it. So when they show up, if they show up, you get to decide what that means. You get to decide if you want to have that conversation, if you want to hear what they have to say, if you want to give them access to your energy, your time, your space, and whatever you decide, it's the right decision, because this isn't about them anymore. This is about you honoring how far you've come. Have you been feeling this shift in your power, in your ability to choose yourself first? Let me know in the comments, because I want to hear where you're at with this. Because what I keep seeing is this person showing up. It's not the climax of your story. It's not the moment everything falls into place. It's just a moment. A moment where you get to see how much you've grown. A moment where you get to practice your boundaries. A moment where you get to choose based on what's real, not what you wish were real. And that's powerful. That's the kind of power that doesn't need them to show up to prove itself. But if they do, you'll be ready. Not ready in a I've been waiting for this kind of way, but ready in a I know exactly who I am and what I'm willing to accept kind of way. And here's why they're feeling this pull to show up. Because they're sensing that shift in you. They're sensing that you're no longer the person who is holding on to what could have been. They're sensing that you've moved forward, not in a bitter way, not in a closed off way, but in a way that's real. And that's making them uncomfortable. Not because you're doing anything to them, but because your growth, your clarity, your peace, it's reflecting back to them what they chose to walk away from. And now they're wondering, did I make a mistake? Could we have had something if I had shown up differently? Is it too late? And those questions, they're driving this need to see you, to be in your presence, to gauge where you're at, to see if there's still an opening. But here's what you need to understand. You don't owe them an opening. You don't owe them a chance to explain. You don't owe them your time, your energy, your emotional labor. You don't owe them anything. What you owe yourself is honesty. Honesty about what you actually want. Honesty about what you're actually willing to accept. Honesty about whether this person has demonstrated the capacity to meet you where you are now. Not where you were, where you are now, because you're different now. You're clearer, you're stronger, you're more aligned with your own worth. And anyone who wants access to you needs to be able to match that. Does this make sense? Drop a comment and let me know what you're feeling right now, because I keep sensing there's a part of you that's curious about what they want to say, curious about what's changed for them, curious about whether this could actually be different this time. And that's okay. Curiosity doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're going backwards. It doesn't mean you've lost your progress. It just means you're human. But here's what I want you to sit with. Curiosity can coexist with boundaries. You can be curious about what they have to say and still protect your peace. You can be open to hearing them out and still be clear about what you will and won't tolerate. You can give them a moment of your time without giving them access to your heart until they've proven they can handle it. Because the version of you they knew before, the one who gave chances freely, who hoped for the best, who believed people when they said they'd change, that version of you learned something. She learned that words are easy, promises are easy, showing up once is easy. What's hard is consistency. What's hard is follow through. What's hard is actually doing the work to become someone who can show up differently. And if this person is truly ready to do that, you'll see it, not in what they say when they show up at your door, but in what they do after, in how they respect your boundaries, in how they honor your pace, in how they demonstrate through action, not just words, that they've actually changed. Have you been thinking about this? About what it would actually take for you to trust them again? Let me know in the comments. Because here's the truth. They might show up with all the right words. They might show up with flowers, with apologies, with explanations that make sense. But none of that matters if it's not backed by changed behavior. None of that matters. And if they're just showing up to ease their own guilt, to test if you're still available, to see if they can slip back into your life without actually doing the work, you've been through enough to know the difference now. You've been through enough to recognize performance versus presence. You've been through enough to trust your gut when something feels off, even if it looks right on the surface. And that's a gift. That's what all of this has been preparing you for. Not to be closed off, not to be bitter, not to never trust again, but to trust yourself first, to trust your instincts, to trust your boundaries, to trust that you know what you need, and you don't have to compromise on that just because someone finally realized what they had. So when they show up, if they show up, take your time. Don't rush into anything. Don't feel pressured to have an answer right away. Don't let their urgency override your clarity, because this is your life, your peace, your energy, your future, and you get to decide who has access to it, not based on who they used to be, not based on what you used to hope for, but based on who they are now and whether that aligns with who you've become. Does this resonate? Comment below and tell me what's coming up for you, because I see you. I see you standing at this crossroads, knowing someone might show up, might reach out, might try to reconnect. And I see you strong enough now to handle it. Not because you have all the answers, not because you know exactly what you'll say or do, but because you know yourself, you know your worth, you know your boundaries, you know what you're no longer willing to accept. And that's everything. So let them show up. Let them say what they need to say. Let them try to explain, to apologize, to make their case. And then trust yourself to know what's real. Trust yourself to know if this is someone who's actually ready to meet you where you are, or if this is just someone who's uncomfortable with the fact that you moved on. Because there's a difference. And you're wise enough now to see it. I don't sell futures. I build architects. No predictions, just the raw truth for the tough ones. Stay magic, stay in the now.